You're listening to the Bored to Death Bingecast, talking TV shows and movies in easily digestible chunks.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome to a Bingecast special, if you will. I am Jay, being joined by
Chris.
And we're doing... this is take 2 of our record. We recorded a couple minutes of our intro when my microphone got unplugged somehow.
You gotta love those technical problems. Imagine if we were doing this on camera and the focus was going in and out all the time.
Yeah, but this is an audio podcast, so we don't have to worry about that. Besides, I don't think anybody really wants to see our ugly mugs on the internet.
Well, we could do what ZZ Top did and just grow our beards out.
At any rate, we're doing what you've been doing with Star Trek Discovery with your solo casts.
Yeah,
we're gonna be doing episode by episode.
Whenever we can do it.
Whenever we can do it for Star Wars: The Mandalorian Season 2. We both love The Mandalorian.
That we do. It's literally as much. I mean, I know other sci-fi series have had this title, Western in Space.
Firefly being the...
Firefly, the original Star Trek.
I don't know.
Well, that's
the
what
original Star Trek kind of did, but Firefly had much more of the Western aspect to it.
Well, Gene Roddenberry described it as that.
Okay, that's fair. But then, Firefly basically sort of set the standard for space westerns, and now Mandalorian is just sort of like...
Mandalorian is the good, the bad, and the ugly of Star Wars.
Yes. Mandalorian's like hold my blue milk.
The Mandalorian is basically Clint Eastwood's character if he was a bounty hunter. I honestly haven't really watched the movies a whole lot.
Yeah, the Man with No Name trilogy, that's one we should put on the Bingecast list. Of course, everybody loves the Mandalorian apart from people who aren't Star Wars fans, but even they, I think, cannot deny the cuteness that is Baby Yoda.
This is true.
Who must be protected at all costs.
Especially from comedic stormtroopers.
Comedic stormtroopers, the Griffin Simmons of the Star Wars universe. Everybody has made the red versus blue comparisons to that scene from the last episode of season 1.
At this point, I'm waiting for them to get the red versus blue team to come in and do the voiceovers for stormtroopers.
The Rooster Teeth crew would be 100% down for that. I guarantee it.
Hey, if it means their names are in those blue credits, then yes.
But so when this season 1 ended, we know the Mandalorian's name, Din Djarin.
Mm-hmm.
We saw his face, however briefly, and he's now been basically made a clan of 2 with Baby Yoda by the Armorer. And
he has his own little the emblem now.
Yeah, we have it up on our screen right here. You can see it right there on his.
It's the Mudhorn.
The Mudhorn. Yep, that's his sigil. That's what they called it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's been basically tasked with finding Baby Yoda's people, so that he can be with his own kind.
Can I just go ahead and say this right now? I'm looking I think one of the things that I'm more excited to see in this season. Granted, yes, I know Boba Fett.
Yes.
Is Ahsoka.
Yes. Everybody is really waiting to see Ahsoka.
I want to see how
everybody wants to see how they're going to handle live action Ahsoka.
Yes. Because if that's the case, then I'm just going to, depending on what happens to her character, I'm probably going to be going, give her her own spin-off.
Yes. Show us what happened after Rebels.
Yes.
But... You said Boba Fett, but when we did our Clone Wars rap cast, you actually had a different theory about who Spurs was.
Oh yeah, Cad Bane.
Yes. Now, if that's who Spurs ends up being,
that's
cool. Me personally, I think it's going to be Boba.
I'm sorry, but because of the way they made Cad Bane look, in terms of his outfit, I could see him wearing Spurs.
Yeah, he had the gunslinger chic down perfect.
And for anybody saying, oh well, why would somebody in Star Wars be wearing Spurs? I don't know. Why did somebody in Star Trek Season 3 Episode 2 wear Spurs?
Well, and why would somebody wear Spurs? Because they're in the Outer Rim on a desert planet. Sometimes you got to get the Bantha to giddy up.
Sometimes you got to give people that warning that you're coming into town. They can hear you from a mile away.
Clink. Intimidation. plays a key role in bounty hunting.
It also helps to have your own theme music.
Yes. But we also know that while the Bounty Hunters Guild is no longer specifically hunting down Mando, I'm gonna probably keep calling him Mando, even though we know his name.
What's everybody going to know him by? His real name or Mando?
All the other characters are going to know him by Mando, except for Greef and Cara, because they were both there when it was revealed. But then again, they might just call him Mando, because that's what they've called him for years. Or at least years maybe in Greef's case, but, Cara has only ever known him as Mando.
Yeah, so...
so the Bounty Hunters Guild, there's no bounty on them anymore, but we know that the Imperial Remnant is still looking for them. Moff Gideon especially.
Yes, with that special sword that he has.
The Darksaber, yes. Which is one of those things that people who watched Clone Wars and Rebels, as soon as that thing came out of there and they saw it, we were all like, whoa, wait, what? Once again, aren't you glad I convinced you to watch those two?
Otherwise you would have watched that going, what's that?
No, it's obvious what it was, but I'd be like, it's dark. But, I saw plenty of... I've watched a few reaction vids of people reacting to it. It's like, no! Seeing them all reacting, it's just like, oh my god, he's got the Darksaber.
Now, the real question is, how did he get it? Because I think the last time I saw it in someone's hands, it was...
Bo-Katan.
It was Bo-Katan? Okay, because...
Sabine had it briefly in Rebels, but then she gave it to Bo-Katan because she was essentially the leader of the Mandalorian people.
Yeah. But I remember Maul was wielding it at one point in time, too. So.
He took it when he, usurped the Mandalorian regime, essentially.
Well, he had it up until Palpatine kicked his ass.
And we never saw him use it or have it in
the final season.
In season 7.
Yeah, I was kind of glad to see him go back to using his old lightsabers.
But so there's a lot going on there. We know, like we said, that Ahsoka's in this one. Probably Boba Fett, possibly Cad Bane. We don't know, but Boba Fett has basically, I think, been confirmed as being in this season. We don't know the specifics, but
yeah, like I read that he's supposed to be in it, but I don't know who is playing him. I feel like the person who should be playing him should be the same guy who played Jango Fett.
Yes,
because I feel like
he's gonna have the same face.
Yeah. Plus, if they have a white actor playing him, it's just not gonna.
The one way they could possibly get away with casting somebody else if we ever see him without his helmet, which I say no, you should never take his helmet off, because Boba Fett,
except for when he was a kid trying to kill Obi-Wan. No, not Obi-Wan.
I'm not counting Clone Wars. I'm talking in live action.
Oh.
He is only he is iconic. He is who everybody pictures when Star Wars fans, when Mandalorians are mentioned.
Yeah.
Prior to this series, somebody mentions Mandalorian, Boba Fett is who you picture. And so, but if they do show him without his helmet, they could get away with it by explaining that after he crawled out of the Sarlacc gullet, he was like all scarred and everything. He had got some like surgery or something.
All of his equipment was damaged. He couldn't recover it or something like that.
Couldn't recover it, and if they show his face and it's not the guy that was Jango. Again, you could just explain that that his face got all scarred up and he got some like underground surgeon to put his face back together.
He got the guy that Jack Nicholson's Joker tried to get.
Right.
Mirror.
I mean, that's but having something like that explain facial differences is how they handled Mark Hamill in Empire. Having him get clawed in the face by the Wampa is how they explained differences in his face after he had a car accident between episodes 4 and 5.
But if I remember correctly, I think between episodes 4 and 5, they filmed the holiday special, and Mark Hamill
said about that. We don't need to dwell on.
And Mark Hamill looked like a Ken doll in that damn thing.
Well, regardless, let's stop beating around the bush. Let's get down to it because we're both really looking forward to this. So that's it for now, and we'll see you after the binge.
Thank you for listening to the Bored to Death Bingecast. Be sure to like, follow, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on social media on Facebook and Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. You can also reach us via email at binge.cast@outlook.com. We are proud to be a part of the CKCC Radio family of podcasts, available through your podcast streaming service of choice. Be sure to check out the rest of the CKCC Radio family. Real Paranormal Talk, Motivational Moves, The Stupid Sexy Podcast, Talking Tracks, Club Kayfabe Wrestle Talk, J Bunny's Music Hub, The Race Nerd Podcast, and CKCC Radio's flagship show, The Nerd Table. And now, the binge is done, so let's get to the discussion.
And we're back. This was definitely the way.
This was definitely the way. It was a great episode to open up the season with.
Oh my god, yes!
They went back to Space Western.
I don't smoke, but I need a cigarette break after this.
Yeah, damn right.
This is gonna have to be an after sex cigarette. It was that good.
So we open with the scene from the trailer of him going to the fight club.
Yeah.
Talking with the one-eyed alien who was played
by
John
Leguizamo, aka Luigi. I'm sorry, Luigi Mario.
AKA what's his name from John Wick?
Yeah.
Who owned the garage.
Yeah, the one who's like, you need to take this car back.
Yeah. and punched Vigo's son, who deserved it. But anyway, basically what happened was exactly what we saw in the trailer. You know, although the circumstances were a little bit different. Yeah. We don't have to do a full recap of what happened in the episode because spoilers. Go watch the freaking episode. But we can touch on a few things. But long story short, he ends up having to fight all of Leguizamo's goons, and then because he's looking for Mandalorians. Because he basically needs to travel from lair to lair, covert to covert, rather.
Yeah.
While he's trying to track down
other Mandalorians.
Well, other Mandalorians, but also to try to get them to help him find
Baby Yoda's people.
Exactly.
Because other than Yoda, there have been no other encounters with this particular species.
Yeah.
I feel like
I think there was a female of his species that was in something that was, I don't know if it was in, I think it was in Legends, so it's non-canon now.
It's in one of the old Star Wars novels.
Yeah, probably. But regardless, we don't know anything about the species. The species has never been given a name, for crying out loud.
Watch, they're gonna have to come up with something.
Yeah. The fans will probably just call them Yodalings or something. And you know what? Until we get a proper name, that's just what we're going to call them, Yodalings.
Oh God, does this mean that if they start calling them Yodalings, do we have to say we came up with it first?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I am going to tweet that out so I can lay claim to that before somebody else does, or so I can pretend that I lay claim to it at least. But so Gor Koresh was Leguizamo's character, basically. Finally tells him, it's like, I've heard of a Mandalorian on Tatooine and in a place called in a town called Mos Pelgo.
Yeah, and I think we can all figure out who
Pelgo, whatever.
I think we can all figure out who this Mandalorian is.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is that I was speaking with somebody. It was another Star Wars fan, and they said that Django and Bubba both wear Mandalorian armor.
They're not actually
Mandalorians. They're considered outlaws.
Because they're wearing Mandalorian armor without having the right to wear them. Probably.
Exactly.
So he goes off to Tatooine, and we get to meet the kooky mechanic lady from what was that, episode 5 of?
Yeah, it was
5 or 6.
It was the episode where he escaped to Tatooine. And it was the one where it opened up with another bounty hunter saying, I can bring you in cold or warm.
Or I can bring you in cold. That's my line. And so he finally gets pointed in the right direction of Mos Pelgo, which was a town that more or less disappeared off the maps after the Empire fell. And we find out why later in the episode, but it's like a mining town, and when he arrives in town, finds out that the Mandalorian, you can't see me doing the air quotes in an audio podcast, but I'm doing air quotes, that the Mandalorian is the town's marshal, who's wearing Boba Fett's armor. But that ain't Boba Fett.
No, and you can tell it ain't Boba Fett too, just because
the moment he shows up in the door, you're like, that ain't Boba.
No,
not unless Boba got real scrawny.
Really scrawny, really quick. It's like, man, you starved in that Sarlacc pit.
This was like the Justified crossover.
Yeah,
because it was Timothy Olyphant.
Yeah, and I didn't recognize him because I've never seen him with hair before, because I think the only thing I've really seen him in that I can remember is the second Hitman film.
He was in the first Hitman film.
Oh, he was in the first one.
Yes.
Okay.
The second Hitman film had somebody else playing 47.
Okay.
But, and if I'm honest, Timothy Olyphant, the only things that I had seen, because I haven't actually seen Justified. I keep hearing it's a really good series. It's one of those things that I'll probably check out at some point. But the only things I'd seen him in were Die Hard 4 and Hitman. And I was just like, and then when I started hearing people singing his praises, and stuff, I'm like, why? Because I honestly did not see much to his acting ability in those movies. Granted, Die Hard 4, not a great movie.
No, but he could probably be one of like the bright spots of the film.
Maybe, but it's really kind of stretching it in my opinion. But then, and then in Hitman, he's playing a near emotionless assassin. So, like I said, I probably just wasn't seeing him in his best roles, but this is, once I found out that was him, because I was looking at him, I was like, I've seen you somewhere before. It wasn't until his name came up during the credits, I was like, oh, okay.
Now I know you.
Now I know who you are. Now, if I'm honest, now I understand why people, like him. Again, maybe if I'd seen Justified, I would have been way more excited to see him or something.
Well, plus he's probably been in a lot of other things too.
Probably. And Mando basically wants him to just give up the armor because it's like you don't have the right to wear it.
Well, he didn't really do anything to earn it other than freeing this town.
Well, actually, it wasn't even that, because this came up in the backstory, where basically after the Empire fell, the mining collective moved in and enslaved the town. He managed to escape, grab one of those little like ice cream tank things.
It's that thing that you see
that he was carrying the Beskar in.
Well, no, I was actually going to say
in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that you see somebody randomly carrying, and then many years later they finally show what the damn things are used for.
They're basically like treasure chests.
Essentially,
or like the briefcases that you would put the money in. They're future Halliburton cases. And he ran off into the desert where he eventually was found by the Jawas. And when they opened up the future Halliburton and found a whole bunch of like Brox rocks or something.
I jokingly called them dilithium crystals. Like, man,
they were glowing.
Man, Paramount's gonna sue someone. Or CBS. I don't know who owns the rights to Star Trek.
It's still Paramount, I think, but CBS may be part of Paramount. I don't know. Anyway,
that's another discussion.
That's another discussion for later. And so they're giving him water. They're like, what do you want for the rest of this? And he just looks over and sees Mandalorian armor, because everyone's heard the stories about how great of warriors
Beskar armor is.
We don't know if Boba's armor was proper Beskar or not.
I mean, he does get shot while he's wearing it, and it just
goes ping. Yeah, but regardless, he basically points to that armor. He goes back into town, and the mining collective thugs take one look at him, and they're like, "Oh shit!"
And then they try to shoot at him. He goes first-person shooter mode on everybody, kills everybody in the room in the bar, They try to get away,
and he just shoots a rocket at them.
Yeah, he just shoots the damn rocket at them, blows that up, and I thought it was gonna be like that scene because
from Iron Man.
Yeah, from the first Iron Man movie.
Jon Favreau.
Yeah, because where Iron Man shoots the tank, walks away, and then tank goes boom. I thought it was gonna be like that.
Well,
but
I guess that's because Cobb Vanth, that was his character's name, Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth is not a cool guy. Because cool guys don't look at explosions.
And
they just turn and walk away.
Yep.
But he and Mando basically make a deal. It's like, you help me with the problem that we're having, and I'll give you the armor. And the problem that they're having is they got wormsign. I was literally, as we were watching this, because the town, like, the ground starts shaking and everybody in town, like, immediately gets off.
And I started making Tremors jokes.
And I'm joking. It's like, we've got wormsign, and then suddenly you actually see like something under the sand pushing a bow wave in front of it. And I was like, holy shit, we do actually have wormsign. And thing goes through the town, doesn't attack anything except for a bantha tied up on the other side of town.
Or it's sitting there just trying to drink its water, minding its own business,
and then just goes up.
And to be honest with you, like, yeah, you know, depending on what you have seen in your life, you know, you're probably thinking Dune, Tremors, or Beetlejuice.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. I didn't even think of that. I went to Dune, probably because I just read the book again recently, and I'm hyped for the remake coming out next year.
The newest remake.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they go to try to hunt it. And then they come across some Tusken Raiders.
Well, first they come across their dogs, and Mando recognizes them, starts speaking Tusken. The dogs back down, and he walks over to one of them.
Dog things, yeah.
He walks over to one of them and just starts scratching its head. It starts waggling its little like lizard tail thing.
A little stumpy lizard tail.
And he's sitting there scratching underneath its jaw and everything.
And we're literally like, who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
And you know, then Tusken Raiders come on out, and
Mando's talking to them in Tusken, with the hand signs and everything.
Well, it's funny because in season 1, when you see him speaking with the Tusken Raiders, unless this was a deaf Tusken, he was strictly using basically Tusken Raider sign language to them, whereas in this it was a combination of Tusken Raider talk and sign language.
Yeah, it's like, I guess maybe only a select few actually speak it. Around outsiders, maybe?
Probably.
And using, like, signs is a good way to avoid making noise when you're sneaking up on somebody to raid them, or if you're...
trying to sneak up a giant-ass worm.
Well, and the worm is...
You go ahead and explain this, since you probably read the Legends novels.
Well, in the Legends novels, I don't know if they were ever actually depicted in the prose. They were only ever references.
Yeah.
But it was krayt dragons. And I remember in the novelization for episode 4, when the noise that Obi-Wan makes when he scares off the Sand People from Luke and the droids is in the book is described as a krayt dragon call, and which goes a long way to explaining why the Sand People took off running.
Because they fear it and they want it dead.
Well. You know, they also try to basically let's try to feed it so it doesn't try to kill us, and we see them do this.
What did they say that it ate the Sarlacc? Which I'm trying to figure out, because
that makes sense now, because the big ass cave where the krayt dragon sleeps, Cobb makes some comment on it, and it's a big cave, and it's like it's a abandoned Sarlacc cave. And Cobb's just like, I've lived on Tatooine my whole life. There's no such thing as an abandoned Sarlacc cave. And Mando just goes, there is if you eat the Sarlacc. Because, see, I had taken that to mean that the Sand People had, like, eaten it. But now it just now occurs to me, the krayt dragon ate it.
Well, because I was thinking of Force Unleashed. Yeah. Where one of the planets that you go to has a giant Sarlacc, and you know it's got the tentacles and everything, and then there's like the one part of the mission where when you go back to the planet, you have to go inside the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, and it's all full of acid and shit.
And if you're not careful, yeah. I was reading, because when you unlock like the information crystals,
the
and
little
stuff.
lore.
Yeah.
Things.
So I was reading the one for the Sarlacc pit. Well, something like this sticks with you. The one for the Sarlacc pit reads that the one from that particular planet, the Sarlacc pit is pretty much the planet itself.
It's basically grown so
big that it's practically the planet. Hence the reason why, like, it's first off, like the area where its mouth is so freaking huge, and why its tentacles are damn near everywhere. Granted, we only saw that one part, but that's just what I remember of the crystal reading. Now, I remember in Return of the Jedi, the one from Tatooine was just that one spot. So I'm honestly wondering, how young was it and how old was it at the same time? Because it wasn't very big.
Or is it possible that there are multiple Sarlaccs across the planet? Because we've only ever seen a small part of it.
Yeah.
And that's, and it's just, but what eventually happens as they grow older, they eventually compete for space and food, and they start killing one another off until you get giant daddy Sarlacc taking over the whole planet, like in Force Unleashed. Regardless, Krayt Dragon thinks those things are a snack, which goes a long way to telling you how dangerous this thing is. And yeah, they basically, the people of the mining town join forces with the Sand People to fight this thing. And their plan is basically, we're going to plant a bunch of bombs underneath the sand, lure it on top of it, and try to blow it up from underneath, because that's where its
belly's its weak spot,
because that's where the soft tissue is.
That's where the soft squishy parts are. And the deal that the Tusken Raiders made with the Marshal was, we're getting tired of you killing our people. So what we're going to do is, you're going to recruit the mining town to help us kill this thing. We get the body and the bits and pieces. You give the Mandalorian armor back to him.
And we'll leave your town alone.
As long as your people don't raise a single blaster towards us.
It's like, we will leave you in peace as long as you keep to it.
Yes. So
the second you shoot at us, it's on.
Which I honestly thought was going to happen while they were loading those bombs up onto one of the
Banthas.
Yeah. Because one of the Tusken Raiders got a little clumsy, dropped one, and one of the miners was like, "Are you stupid? You trying to kill us all?"
Yeah, and they just start yelling at each other.
Yeah, and the Marshal was the one who goes and gets between the two of them and goes, "Hey, it was an accident. Back off."
Yeah. Hey, he's a reasonable man. That's good.
I mean, the funny thing is that he did tell them, "I have grown very attached to this armor, but I have to give it to him."
Yeah. Or he'll peel it off me, basically. So they fight the Krayt Dragon, and it spits acid, which is just a nasty way to go.
That was a lot of stomach acid.
Yep, and it's like burrowing through up in, so it pops up out the top of the mountain. And
it kind of reminds me of the worm creatures from Turok Dinosaur Hunter, because I remember the description.
I never played that game.
Well, the description for those was that they move through Earth like we move through air. Right?
Yeah.
That's just how they are, because at one point in time during the big old battle between the Tusken Raiders, Mando, the Marshal, and the mining people from the town, the Krayt Dragon actually manages to burrow up through the cave mountain, like the mountain itself, pops up through the top, and then starts throwing up on everyone.
And then when Mando and Cobb fly up there with their jetpacks and start shooting it in the face,
its eye is right there. Why didn't either one of them think to
shoot? Mando, you are a good shot. How are you not shooting for the eye? Go for the eyes, boo. Go for the eyes. But they lure it. They try to lure it back down to ground level by pissing it off and then flying back down. and it's just sort of like, I can flank you too. And it does. It goes back down through the mountain and comes up behind them.
And starts charging towards them, and then at that point, Mando looks at the one bantha that still has all the bombs on it, and he gets the idea that Drax had in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Its skin is impenetrable. We must defeat it from the inside.
So,
or kind of like Tony did like Tony Stark did in Avengers when he flew down the mouth of one of those things and basically, shot it up from the inside.
He's like, you know the story of Jonah and the whale, right? Yes, but I wouldn't call him a Would it? We know why we don't remember.
Well,
what it reminded me more of was the scene in the first Hellboy movie.
Oh my god, it's a much better example actually.
Where he gets inside the Cthulhu monster, blows it up from the inside, comes out and goes, "That's gonna
be sore in the morning." But, Mando doesn't actually stay inside the thing while the bombs go off. He uses his little taser rifle, just goes, and it's just like, spits him out.
And then everything inside is electrified at that point. He takes the detonator,
it just goes,
boop, and blows it up from the inside.
Goes, and kaboom.
Yeah, I think they took
he took a chunk of the meat to feed, so he could use that to feed Baby Yoda for the rest of the...
I think he just looked at the Raiders and said, "Can I take this piece right here?" Like,
sure. They're like, "I think we got enough. You're cool."
Plus, I think they also have a bit of respect for Mando because, he's able to communicate with them properly.
He treats them with respect. He speaks their language, and, he can communicate in sign as well. He respects their territory and their claim to their territory,
and knows how to work with them. But no, like, what was it where he tapped on the Marshal's back, the jetpack, and he shoots off?
Yeah,
and it. All right, for visual context, if you've seen Return of the Jedi. When Boba goes flying and crashes into Jabba's little floating
sail barge,
the sail barge, it looks exactly like that, but without him actually hitting anything.
Yeah.
So,
they snuck in so many little things for fans.
Can I just go ahead and say what the Marshal was driving?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. So Mando borrows a rusty old speeder bike.
Which okay. First off, when he's slowly driving into town, it's making motorbike noises.
But when he and the Marshal go riding out to go find the krayt dragon, go ahead.
The Marshal. Oh God! How do I best describe this?
You were outraged when you saw it.
I wasn't outraged. I just thought it was funny.
You were just like, "Oh my God!"
That they threw this in there, and I love the fact that they have all these references to Star Wars lore in this show so far. So the thing that
God bless him for it.
Yes. So one of the things the thing that he is driving, the Marshal is driving, is one of the engines for Anakin Skywalker's pod racer.
Yeah.
It's got a motorbike seat on the side of it.
A sidecar.
And to be honest with you, it does look pretty cool, but when I saw that... But when I saw...
oh my God.
I was like, oh my God. You're like, what? I was like... That's Anakin Skywalker's pod racer part right there.
I was like, he's riding a freaking pod racer, and you're like, that's Anakin's pod racer.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, you're right.
I had to go do a Google search on Anakin's pod racer and show it to him.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh my God.
But then, but at the end of the episode, the miners are there, sort of watching the Sand Peoples cutting up the carcass. Mando's wrapping his chunk of meat, which is bigger than Baby Yoda, in cloth. So
no. The best part is that Baby Yoda's looking
at it, just sort of like
yum.
And Cobb hands over the armor and is just sort of like, take good care of it. It's been good to me, or something along those lines.
It's been good to me for a long time now.
And so Mando starts driving off
into the twin sunset,
and then we see a man, bald guy with some like robes like people wear in the desert.
I don't
a couple of guns strapped across his back.
I don't know. He looked real familiar, but I couldn't place his burnt up face.
Oh,
Not
scarred.
really burnt,
It was
scarred
scarred.
up
Yeah.
face.
But when he turns around, it was.
Do we really want to say it?
Yes, let's go ahead and say it. We've spoilers at this point. Spoiler.
So if you have not seen the episode yet, turn it off right now and then come back.
Yes, so go ahead. It was
Boba Fett.
It was Boba Fett. It was Jango Fett's actor too.
Yes. Well, not only Jango Fett's actor, the same guy who voiced every single clone. Also,
did he do the voice for the Clone Wars? I could have sworn it was somebody else who did the voice.
No,
for the
he
Clone
came.
Wars.
No, they got him back to come and voice all of the clones.
Okay, so that's even more badass. That he was able to do that voice acting.
I had to go on to IMDb
because we commented on this in the Clone Wars Rapcast that he managed to give them all little individual like quirks in their way of speaking and stuff.
Yeah, including different accents.
Well, no, the accent was usually the same, but it was different ways of speaking.
Yeah.
Some of them maybe had a little bit of a higher voice. Some of them maybe had a little bit of a deeper voice or whatever.
More calm than others.
Calm. This guy's a little bit more crazy, so he's like, he's
well, no, I was thinking like the giant hulking man of the
Bad Batch, yeah.
Yes, and
Specs was also.
Well, he was the nerdy one. I think he just kind of just like, how would I voice Donatello?
Yeah, I'm never gonna be able to look at the Bad Batch now without thinking of like
the Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles.
Yes, the Rambo one is Raphael.
I would actually go with Leonardo more for him.
Yeah, not that
big hulking guy is more like Raphael.
Yes, especially the newer versions. But what are the things that were in it that we noticed? Because I know there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot. Well, there was the Gamorreans, the pig, the like orc pigs.
Yeah,
in the Fight Club,
the green pig dudes from Return of the Jedi
that were Jabba's guards.
Are they native to Tatooine?
No,
they're not. Okay,
but they tend to work for Hutts a lot. I think
whatever's left of the Hutts at this point.
I'm sure the Hutts are still out there. Their crime syndicate's probably been dismantled.
They're trying to regroup and then try to, especially with Crimson Dawn and all of them being gone because of members being killed off.
Well, and as was said in the episode, it's like there was a vacuum and something moved in to fill it. And
yeah, but
it was Cobb referring to the Empire after the Empire was pulled out. The mining collective just moved in and basically was worse than the Empire until Cobb chased them off, I guess. But it's the same thing is going to be true in the criminal underworld as well. It's just sort of like if you remove a major authority figure in the mob, then that leaves a power vacuum, and people are going to move to fill it.
What was it that Kingpin said in the Spider-Man game when he got arrested? He goes, "I'll give you 1 month before you wish that I was back."
Yep. And it's one of those things that even like real life law enforcement agencies have to deal with as well. It's just sort of like we want to take these guys down, but
who's going to replace them?
Exactly. That's why they have to. That's why they're usually cautious about trying to make a move on major figures like that, because they may be criminal scum, but they are usually keeping worse things in check. Which is something we're kind of seeing in Mandalorian, because this is post Return of the Jedi. The Empire's gone, and without Vader and the Emperor, sort of, and some of the major Imperial leaders around, you've got people like Moff Gideon rising to power.
Yeah,
Moff Gideon, is bad fucking news.
He really is, especially if he has that damn saber. Now, let me ask you something though. Do you think Boba is going to get his armor back?
He was watching Mando driving off with it. He's probably tracking him.
Most likely, and he probably has a tracker in his armor too.
I wouldn't be surprised, but he's it's a question of, did the Jawas take the armor off him after he crawled out of the Sarlacc pit, and it was just a matter of Cobb got to it first?
That could be it, because I know I know Jawas always go for anything technology.
Well, we saw that in episode 2 of season 1.
They stripped his goddamn ship apart,
and they probably would have done the same for all of his armor and weapons.
They wanted the armor too,
yeah,
and his weapons.
And he was just like, no, weapons are my religion. Or weapons are part of my religion, I think is what it was. But regardless, it was a very good episode.
Oh my god,
we were very much enjoying it.
It was entertaining.
And it's a slow start. You know, as I commented during the episode, it was small stakes.
Do you remember what I was saying earlier though when he had John Leguizamo's character hanging from the nightlight, and he says, "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you."
Oh,
do you remember what I said?
No, it's Leguizamo. You know, Gor Koresh had basically, asked him to spare him in exchange for the information, and Mando said, "I promise you will not die by my hand."
And then I said,
"But that's like..." Yeah.
So the way the episode essentially begins after the recap of the previous season is Mando and Baby Yoda are essentially walking through the slums of this one planet, of this one city, town, whatever.
It was never specified where it was, but I got a real Corellian vibe off.
Could have been Corellia.
Because, after Solo,
yeah,
that sort of gave us our first look at Corellia in the new Star Wars canon. But regardless, we never got any indication of where it was.
But as they're walking through, and they're staying in the vicinity of these lampposts, because at night, and it's the only light that they got, they're walking through, and there are these eyes, these glowing red eyes.
And you were like, "Are those Jawas?"
Are those Jawas? Like, Jawas gone crazy
Jawas
or something?
Everywhere, but then we see glimpses of like shapes, and
I was like, "Nope, those are not Jawas." And now,
I compared them almost to the Krill from Gears of War, only crawling on the ground rather than flying through the air.
Or those creatures from Pitch Black.
Pitch Black, yes.
Now, fast forward to him with Leguizamo's character hanging from the lamppost. Mando starts walking away after getting all the information they need, turns around, shoots the light, and now I'd called this, I was just like, he's going to die by those creatures. That's how he's going to do it. Because he says, I'm not going to be the one who kills you.
He said, "I promise you will not die by
my hands."
As soon as he said that, I'm like, he's going to die. But Mando is not going to be the one that kills him.
I knew what was going to do it, too. It was those creatures. Turns around, shoots the light, light goes out.
And you see them immediately start closing in.
Yes. So I was like, he did keep his promise.
Yep. He's ruthless, our Mando.
You got to be in these parts.
Mm-hmm. But I like these small-scale stories that they're doing with The Mandalorian. Season 1 was all small scale. Mm-hmm. Only started getting large scale towards the end of the season with the last 2 episodes when Moff Gideon and his remnant forces moved into town. But even then, it was still small scale, and it's because everything else in Star Wars has been all large scale. It's the fate of the galaxy at stake. Maybe not in Solo, but even then...
That was more of Solo basically trying to get his girlfriend back, because
and he was also looking for that big score.
Yes, that's all that was. He wasn't interested in saving the galaxy. He's a scoundrel. Mm-hmm. That's all he is he is a scoundrel. He has a goal in mind, and he goes for it.
Yep. And so having stuff smaller scale, I like that because it gives us a lot more of a sense of what the galaxy is like to live in. Everything else has all been like these war movies, essentially.
Star Wars.
Yes, but because of that, we don't get a sense of what it's like for the people on the ground.
No.
The people living in the galaxy. And that's one of the things I love about The Mandalorian is that it gives us these smaller scale stories. So I'm all for them continuing that. Obviously, it's going to get larger scale as it goes on because Moff Gideon is still out there
somewhere,
and we know that he's going to run into more stormtroopers and more remnant forces because we saw that in the trailer.
So, since Boba didn't have the spurs, do you think that my prediction is going to be true?
That's Cad Bane. That would be awesome. But I'm real curious if it was just they did the spurs. If it maybe that character was supposed to be Boba. I imagine when Mando and Boba sit down to have a little palaver, because it's going to happen at some point, and it's going to be probably in Boba's camp somewhere.
No, it's probably going to be.
If we see the helmet that the chick, the bounty from the Tatooine episode in season 1, if we see that helmet sitting in there, or if he turns up wearing that helmet or something, then we'll know Spurs was Boba.
Okay, and then he probably got rid of the spurs.
Maybe so. It could be that he rode in on a bantha or something to inspect the body, and that's why he had the spurs. And maybe he was just closer to his camp or whatever, and thus he didn't have the spurs on.
Always a possibility.
But I was one of those. I don't remember if it was, but part of me doesn't really want to ever see Boba's face. But the second Cobb turned up wearing Boba's armor, I was just like, okay, so I guess this is how we're doing it. But it's cool that Boba. I'm surprised that they went with Boba so soon. But as soon as they mentioned Tatooine, I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this.
And Mandalorian on Tatooine.
Yep. But yeah, so definitely big thumbs up from Jay for episode 1 of season 2.
Definite big thumbs up from me.
If you are a Star Wars fan, go check out The Mandalorian. Get Disney Plus so you can check out The Mandalorian. And while you're at it, watch Clone Wars and Rebels.
Those are all must-watch series, especially.
I love all the little fan service that they're throwing in.
Oh my god, yes. But the problem is that you can't just jump into Mandalorian. I would highly recommend starting with Clone Wars.
And then
watch all that. Watch all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Go into Rebels. Watch all of that. You don't need to watch any of the movies. And then after that, it goes straight to Mandalorian afterwards.
Rebels would probably be a good bet as well, but...
No, I said watch Rebels.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, watch Clone Wars, watch Rebels, then watch Mandalorian. And one of the other things that I like with these bits of fan service that they throw in there, it's not something. It's like it's not going to be something where if you look at it, it's like why is that significant? It's like it doesn't matter if you don't know what these things are. In context, you can figure out. Oh, that's his speeder bike, But fans are just like, oh my god, it's Anakin's pod racer. It's like you don't have to know recognize what a krayt dragon is from some like one of the old Legends novels
because it was never shown before or described before.
But it was maybe it was definitely seen as like an apex predator sort of thing, and you don't call something dragon for no reason.
Well, this thing definitely spewed something up.
Well, I mean, there are some dragons in D&D that spit acid rather than breathe fire.
Or ice, or whatever.
Yeah, but but I like that it's like they deliberately have written The Mandalorian in such a way that even non-Star Wars fans can enjoy it because they give you enough context if in the scenes, in the dialogue, that you can piece together what you need to know. I said that before about Mandalorian season 1, especially the first episode. The first episode is a fantastic case of show don't tell. They didn't have to give us a bunch of exposition about what all this stuff is. They showed it to you and let you put it together for yourself.
I was checking to see if there are any more like celebrity cameos or whatever. I was just like, all right, who's the celebrity cameo of the episode today?
And it was
Timothy Oliphant.
John Leguizamo, Timothy Oliphant.
Oh god, it's like they're pretty much sending emails out to celebrities saying, "You want a Star Wars cameo?" Kevin Smith got one in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Well, all he did was he just provided his voice for a stormtrooper.
And then there was Simon Pegg.
Yeah, Simon Pegg. He was the dude who basically owned Rey.
Yeah.
If
I hadn't been told that was Simon Pegg, I would never have guessed because he was it
was a combination of practical and CGI.
Practical and CGI, and then the voice. It was completely unlike his voice. So It's like I wouldn't have known. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of actors out there who are just sort of like, I want to keep working, but I kind of want to leave a gap in my schedule so I can squeeze in a cameo on Mandalorian or something.
Well, remember the one that I didn't know it was him in Force Awakens, but Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper in that.
Yeah, he was the one that Rey did the mind trick on.
The funny thing is that his stormtrooper number was like something 007.
JB-007. Or I don't know if that's actually canon. I think that's just what fans have basically said. That's what his serial number is.
Screw it! It's
exactly.
canon.
It's canon. If enough people believe it, then it becomes canon. That's how this works.
Yes.
And if it turns out nope, that's not how it works, then people throw hissy fits on the internet and become toxic fans.
Yes, and we know.
Stop being toxic fans, please. Anyway, we're coming up on 50 minutes here, so we should wrap this up. So.
Well, before we finish up, let me ask you this: what are your predictions for the rest of the season?
That's a real good question.
Is there anything that you want to see?
I want to see Boba Fett be badass. Prove that it's like I don't need the armor to be more of a Mandalorian warrior than you.
I mean, he was using his dad's. He was using Slave 1 when his dad was fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi. Mm-hmm. So there's that. There's also the fact that he attempted to murder Mace Windu. I've had a very long day. I've had a very long day and a very long week.
Yes. Anyway,
getting screwed over at work sucks.
Yes.
I want
Boba Fett be badass.
So when he tried killing him, because he killed his. Do we still call him his dad, even though he's a clone?
We're going to call him his dad.
Because he killed Jango, and he was like, "Oh well, I'm just here to kill him. I know I'm gonna fit in on this ship because I look like all these other kids."
Yeah.
So that's basically what he was doing. Was he was plotting to kill Mace Windu. Almost said it again.
Waste Windu.
Like I said, it's been a long weekend.
It has been a long weekend for you, and I feel sorry for you.
So, there was that, and the fact that, if I remember correctly from that particular episode, he also caused the entire Star Destroyer that they were on to crash onto a planet. And it continued into the next episode.
It was a two-parter. I remember that much. But regardless, it was... Yeah, I mean, we know Boba's badass. But I want to see him do it again.
And him, well, let's not forget that he was the only one who told Darth Vader he's no good to me dead.
Yeah.
He had the balls to say that to Darth Vader. Darth Vader could have looked at him and said, "I will choke you like a bitch.
I will cut your head off." Like Mace Windu did to your daddy. Oh, God.
Don't make me pop the movie.
But,
that's some spaceball shit.
But if Sasha Banks is playing Sabine Wren, then her, Mando finding her is probably going to be what helps him along on his quest.
Do you want Freddie Prinze Jr. to play a live-action version of...
Kanan?
Yes, of Kanan.
That would be kind of awesome if they did.
As a Force Ghost, of course.
Force Ghost, of course. That would be kind of cool if he did. But here's the thing. How would that work? Because we've only ever seen Force Ghosts like that appear to Force users.
I think it may be because of his romantic connection to her that he could do that. Plus, remember, at the end of the series, they had a son. So who's to say that his son isn't connected to the Force?
Okay, but we don't know if we're going to meet the rest of the crew of the Ghost.
Or the surviving members, so...
Yeah. We don't know that that's going to happen.
They don't need to throw in all of them. They can literally just show Sabine.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'd be perfectly fine with just Sabine.
Yeah.
And hell, if they want to, they can show a family photo, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sasha Banks.
That sort of thing. Well, except, no, you're confusing Sabine with the Twi'lek who who was the captain of the Ghost.
Yeah.
Sabine was the Mandalorian girl.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've watched that, and plus, too many goddamn characters.
That's why, if Freddie Prinze Jr. were to show up as a Force Ghost for Kanan, that would be cool. But again, it's like, how would that work? Because the only person he could conceivably be appearing to is Baby Yoda.
There you go.
Yes,
that's how you would do it.
But I just don't know how you would really make it work. Besides, if you're going to have a Force Ghost appear to Baby Yoda, just have Yoda appear to Baby Yoda.
Oh God, that would be funny as hell.
We know that Yoda can make a Force Ghost.
Yes. But do we want the original puppet back to glow blue?
Yes. Don't be a coward.
Frank, we need you for an episode.
But yeah, in case you couldn't tell, we've already been talking for like another 5 minutes. I was trying to wrap it up. We love this show. We're dying to watch the next episode, episode 2, but we have to wait a few more days, and we'll try to record it as soon as we can. But it's dependent on
my schedule.
On your schedule.
The same thing goes with me doing Discovery, because I would love to do it on Thursdays when they come out, but I work. And the only times that I can do it is when nobody else is in the house, because I get peace and quiet. And I don't have other roommates,
interfering.
Yes.
But yeah, so definite thumbs up. Go check it out if you haven't already. But yeah, so for Chris, I'm Jay. And we'll see you after episode 2, or chapter 10, rather, of Mandalorian.